The most common question I get as an academic coach and teacher trainer is, how do you motivate students? Well, in today's video, I'm actually going to share with you 4 different phrases that you can actually practice taking on in your classroom time with students or your coaching sessions if you're one-to-one with them. And just the use of these phrases helps bump students' motivation up a little bit and makes you a more and more skilled coach of students, even if you're a classroom teacher. Curious about those 4? Let's dig in. Here's a quick story to help set a context for the 4, if you stay till the very end, phrases I'm going to gift you that you can use in your teaching and coaching of students. So I train educators how to start their own businesses as academic coaches, as well as training school-based folks how to be more coach-like in their teaching. And somebody new in my program is a former teacher. Actually, she still has her teaching job while she's getting her coaching business going as well. And she said it's hard for her to wrap her mind around how to move from teacher mode to coach mode. For her, those are 2 distinct modes. Now, for me, because I've been doing this work forever, whenever I teach a group of students, I just am coach-like. And whenever I'm coaching, I am coach and teacher-like when I'm one-to-one with folks. So I don't have that distinction in me anymore, but it is so true that so many people who are teachers just don't know what it's like to go from presenting content to students to actually being connected one-to-one and helping them tune into their motivation, right? So I know at the top I said that this video is all about helping students be more motivated, but the best way to do that is to learn how to become more coach-like in your teaching if you're a teacher. And this video is great for coaches and parents as well, because anyone can use these 4 phrases with students. And sometimes we have to simply start using the language of a coach in order to shift our mindset, right? It's like act like it and then it'll come eventually. So the first phrase that I notice I say all the time is, I just gave you a clue. I notice. I'm such a goofball, but it's so in my being to shift into languaging where I'm no longer naming platitudes or even interpretations or judgments, but I am noticing what observable behavior patterns are happening inside myself, inside students, in between myself and students. And so rather than just jumping to interpretations, you all are lazy. I'm so disappointed in you, which I have heard teachers say, by the way, so I'm not being dramatic here. It's just real. Rather than jumping to that level, instead, we focus on starting a conversation with observable data. That's what this first bullet is right here. Focuses on specific observable data rather than judgments and interpretations. When we say I notice, it also models metacognitive thinking. So it's really important to help students notice their own behaviors or notice what's happening, what's the context that's happening in this moment, and then make choices from that context, just not from impulse, right? So you're modeling this kind of thinking and behavior. It also then creates a space for students to respond, to fill in the details. So I notice that you've had late work the last 3 assignments. Like, that's observable data. I notice I feel a little frustrated. You can even make it about yourself, but you're putting that little buffer in. I feel a little frustrated because I really want to support you, and I'm not sure what the best way to support you is. Or I notice that I've offered help 3 times and you haven't come in to take advantage of that help, or whatever it is. The I notice is a really important way to be more coach-like as an educator, but also to help a student tap into motivation. It might feel weird that a statement like this sets the stage for motivation, but I'll show why in the next few phrases. The last point I want to make here about I notice is that it's a jumping off point for collaboration with the student. So many teachers feel like they talk to students, they tell students what to do, and that's the best way of supporting a student. But actually, it is finding a place, like lowering, I don't know if lowering is the right word, but finding a place where you're more peers, where the power dynamic is not so strong, where a student's reaction to the observable data and the adding more data in is actually really puts you on the same playing field so that you can work together to find a solution to whatever the issue is. So I notice is a great place to start. The second phrase that I recommend you start integrating into your talking habits when you're talking to students is I'm curious. Now, I need to name that I grew up in a British school system, so I always put the U in, but I recognize that it may look misspelled to you. So the first warning here is please ask this question honestly. So don't be like, I'm curious what you were doing last night, if you're actually judging the student. But really be like, gosh, another piece of late work. I'm curious what happened last night. I noticed there's another piece of late work. I'm curious what happened last night to get in the way of you turning this in. Just as an example. So please be honestly curious. Next, if you can find that place of honest curiosity, it represents a calm nervous system. So many of us teachers, we have so much that we're tackling in the midst of the day. If we're classroom teachers or even if we're coaches, we have so many details we're tracking that we can easily go into upset or annoyance. Or I had a coach also in my training program reach out to say, I'm at my wit's end. So if we're at our wit's end, we've moved into the fight or flight space in our nervous systems, and we are no longer in the color green. I use a color system in the way I understand nervous systems. But if we can find the place of true curiosity, it does represent that we haven't moved so deeply into fight or flight. We are still in our open, calm nervous system space. And just even if you're dipping into annoyance or anger, looking for the thing that you're honestly curious about will help keep you down there in your window of tolerance. It also does this level the playing field thing. They have information that's helpful for you and helpful for the two of you, and you're willing to hear that information. And then that's this last part. It'll give you some information that many teachers don't dig for about the student situation that actually might help you help the student. So many reasons why I'm curious is a good phrase. The third phrase that I recommend you integrate into your speaking life when you're talking to students is this one. Might you be willing ... Now, this one's a little trickier for classroom teachers. It's easier when you're working one-on-one with a student, or if you're a parent, you're one-on-one with your kiddo. So might you be willing to come up with a few ideas of things you can try differently to get your work turned in, as an example? So what this does is this allows students to step out of passivity and connect to their own agency and their own motivation. If you're one-on-one with them and their answer is, you know what, honestly, I'm not willing to do that, then that's important feedback. So then we need to be looking for what might they be willing to do. Too often, students are used to going into a very passive listening and responding and just following direction space with the adults they're talking to. And so this might you be willing is a little verbal cue that reminds them that they have autonomy, they have agency, they get to choose to tune into that. It, again, helps students partner with a coach or with the educator who's talking to them. And so I have a tweak here, though, because it might feel scary for classroom-based educators to use this phrase, because if the answer is no, I'm not willing, then you still need them to do the assignment, right? You have to collect grades. You're trying to teach them. You need them to do it. It's not a yes or no, like it's okay if you're not willing. But instead, the tweak here is to invite students before they sit down to do an assignment, like just notice on a scale of 1 to 10 how willing you are. Or notice on a scale of 1 to 10 how willing you are to deepen your learning this way. Or I'm asking you to do this worksheet because if you're an educator who understands the study cycle, because I want you to actually use this as a retrieval practice right now, as a way to test yourself to see how much you heard. Notice on a scale of 1 to 10 how willing you feel right now to do retrieval practice. And even if the number is low, you can still do it, but just notice to yourself how willing you are. That way it connects students to their own truth, their own motivation, and also shows them even when our motivation is low, we can still actually take action. So I'm a big fan of the might you be willing. So those are the top 3 phrases I notice I use as both a classroom-based educator and a coach. I have one more juicy one for you that actually is the bridge between a student connecting into their motivation and their ability to actually take action on that motivation. And I will share it with you in just a moment. First, though, I'd love to ask you if you're willing to take your own learning about how to be a coach-like teacher to the next level. And if you are, I have a free resource that will really help you. It's all about what I call the consent burger, which is another way to connect students into making the link between their own motivation and whatever it is you have to teach them that day. It's another kind of like today's video was. It's another set of phrases that you can use to do that. It's great for teachers, it's great for coaches, it's great for parents. I've even set it up to be good for students because a student can also just choose to connect into their own consent when they're doing work. So go ahead and check that out. The link is below, but it's at gretchenwegner.com/consent. And also, pretty please like and subscribe. Do all of those things. I'm really actively trying to grow my YouTube channel right now. A lot of you have noticed that the look is a little different. It's more vibrant. And we're doing that because we're really trying to get me deeper into the algorithms in YouTube. But the only way I can truly do that is if you actually do take action yourself, click the bells. So I'm curious if there's something getting in the way of you just being willing to reach out and like and subscribe right now. And if so, I'm asking you from the heart if you'd be willing to just take that little step right now. And I'm going to give you a clue about this final thing that coaches and teachers can say to students. And it is, what is the smallest, oh wait, I can show it to you. What is the smallest action you are willing to take right now? And if the smallest action is to just simply click the like button, do that. Maybe you're willing to actually put a comment below. That helps me too. So you get all kinds of choices. But when we're talking to students and we're having a coaching conversation with them, it can really help to remind them that the next step is not this big, scary thing, that they can do small things to get themselves into action. And so I love this question, and I love sticking with this question until I help a student realize what the smallest thing is. Sometimes it's a 30-second action. It's getting out their notebook or getting out their textbook and opening it to the page that they need, or putting a bookmark in the page for the homework they're doing that night. So you can use this. Where do we go? Here we are. You can use this in combo with the question, what's your takeaway from this conversation? Or what feels relevant to you from what we've talked about? And then this is a really nice next question after that. It also helps the student take a moment to internalize what they have just heard when they have to speak it out loud. It's a way of, to use my study cycle language, practicing retrieval, noticing what stuck from the conversation. And then it creates a bridge to action, right? Because sometimes a student can feel motivated students with executive function challenges can actually feel motivated and then not be able to take action for a variety of reasons. But helping them think through the next teeny tiny step is a huge thing to do. You can do this as a coach one-to-one. You can do this as a teacher. In the classroom, you could just have a habit at the end of class, having a ritual of having students write in their planner, not just the full assignment, but the teeny tiny 30-second step that they can do to start that assignment. Getting them to think that through will help them be able to take the next step. Okay, there you go. You've gotten my 4 tips, and I would be so interested to have you do a little experiment on yourself and practice some of this, and then come back to this video and comment below, or send me an email at gretchen@gretchenwegner.com. Tell me what you've noticed about just tweaking your language this way in group settings and in one-to-one coaching. Good luck, have fun, y'all, and I will see you in the next video.